Earlier this week, I was able to attend a few of the sessions, and I guess one of the things that I noticed was there were people in the back of the room that seemed awfully nervous to me. So you recognizing my age, I mean, I can get the students mixed up with the faculty. And I wasn't sure who it was, and it was clear that they were fairly nervous. And then someone came up to me and said, "Oh no, Mr. Trainer, they're not the students that are pacing back and forth, they're faculty members. The students are all sitting up front, they're very comfortable, they're ready to present." And the students did present, and as Provost Will Hyde said, the presentations are just incredible. They're just so professional, so well done. The students handle themselves, they do a wonderful job. This week is all about the students. The real success of the honors program can best be reflected in the growth of the number of people involved. Since its inception in the late 80s, the program has grown from approximately 20 people in the honors program to this year, I think, over 200. In addition, on campus, we have over 30 honor societies. For those of you that will graduate this year, you're leaving the university much better prepared than when you arrived. But don't think your education is finished. In many ways, it's just beginning. And the environment today is much more difficult than the environment of the 60s and the 70s. In many ways, your ongoing education should be a lifelong goal. You never really stop the process. If you've learned one thing during your career here at Widener, it should be how little you know and how much there is to learn, how much more you can grasp. And your participation in the honors program has already demonstrated your ability to perform at a very high level. According to a Census Bureau, 28% of people in the U.S. have their college degree. 7% of those in the world have a college degree. You're already on track to be one of the leaders of the next generation. Let me give you a little personal background on me. I'm the youngest of 6 children, and my father was a union carpenter and my mother a homemaker. I was the only one to go to college. My mother and father were products of the Great Depression. They were much more interested in me getting a job than going on to college. But I was influenced by other people in my life, and I made a decision to go on to the college level. My earlier education was right here in Chester at a grammar school on 2nd Street, for those of you that are familiar with the area. My high school education was also in Chester at the Catholic Boys High School, which is about 2 blocks away. And then I went on to what was then PMC and is now Widener. I actually commuted, I lived at home, I had a limited horizon, and my parents were terrific. They were wonderful parents, but they weren't worried about sending any of their children to college. As I say, they were worried about them getting degrees. So when I came to Widener, my horizons were limited. I wasn't thinking about being a global leader. I wasn't even thinking about being a leader. I was just thinking about getting myself through school and getting a job. But the faculty at PMC in those days, very similar to what I saw earlier this week, the faculty in those days really cared about the individual students. And they really cared about my situation. I came in as a chemistry major, and a huge influence in my life and career were 2 professors here at PMC Widener. One was Dr. Russell Erb, and the other was Dr. Jim Conroy. They've both since retired and have since passed on. Dr. Erb was just a terrific human being. He would always address the incoming freshman class the chemistry majors, and he would say to them, I have two children. He said, my two daughters, the one is named Ethylene. And so, you know, that would settle in, and then it'd say, then we had another daughter, and I couldn't think of what to name her, and the only thing that seemed to fit was propylene. So, you know, and we never knew whether this was true or not. This could have been a story that he just told year after year, but Dr. Erb was a real character. And he also had a TV show in Philadelphia, which was on once a week. It was similar to the Mr. Wizard kind of show, where they would do experiments and things would, you know, effervesce and other things would solidify, and Dr. Erb he was the moderator of the program. So he'd take students down on a regular basis, and I was fortunate to go down with them a few times, and he would always give the same instructions. He'd say, now your only job is to stand back, to look interested, and to be ready to move in the event of a minor explosion. So, I mean, he was just a terrific character, and he was a wonderful human being, and anyone that ever had the opportunity to sit through one of his classes, really, you had to enjoy it. Now, Dr. Conroy, on the other hand, was not nearly as much fun. But what he was just an outstanding teacher. We only had 11 chemistry students in my class. Dr. Conroy had plenty of energy and time to give each of us all the personal attention we could handle, and in some cases, more than we wanted. But our relationships with Erb and Conroy were priceless. And it's the type of relationship that I feel that you have here at Widener with your faculty. Let me share with you a few things that have worked for me in my career. And I expect the students in this room to take what you've learned at the Widener Honors Program and go on to great careers where you will become global leaders. You will be competing on a global stage. But you need to do something that you have a passion for, something where you can make a difference. So a few of these things that I'll share with you now are things that work for me. Others are things that I've seen other leaders use in their management style. And in no particular order, I'll just share them with you. One is, I think you need to be a good listener. Before you act, you need to understand the issue. Usually the best solution comes from participative management. I was fortunate to run a business very early in my career. I was probably early in my 30s when I took over as a CEO of this relatively small specialty chemical division. And I stayed in that same job. I couldn't get another job. I stayed in that job for about 35 years. But when I would go to a meeting, I realized early on, I thought I knew all the answers because I had spent so much time in the company. When I came out of, my first job was with one of the major chemical companies, and when I came out, I joined this small chemical company. And I had a terrific background in the chemical industry, and my degree here at Widener in chemistry, everything was, I thought, working well. But I realized after a while that the answers that I thought to the questions, my knowledge was so dated. I would hear something that was going on in the plant, and I would immediately say, oh, I know how to fix that. I know what we should do there. I used to be in the plant, you know? And then I would reflect back on some days, and I'd say, geez, I was in the plant 20 years ago. I mean, I had no idea what the issues were. And I had to restructure my thinking when I went into meetings, to hold back, to listen, to make sure that I understood the problem. And I share that with you because I think it's a key element in your ongoing career, whether you go on to grad school or whether you end up in industry, in the corporate world. I think you need to be a good listener. I think you need to look for a win-win solution. We all know what that is. I don't want to beat that up, but both sides need to feel good about themselves. You really haven't won if you come out of a negotiations and your adversary is bloodied and not happy with the solution. You need to be proactive. Don't be afraid to lead. One of the elements of leadership is that there are risks involved, and I would suggest to you to be proactive. Make decisions, understand the issues, and then move forward. You need to be a critical thinker, someone that can adapt. I think studies now show that in your career, the average 4 to 5 jobs. In today's world, the direction it's going, I think it may end up being 5 to 6 jobs in your career. So you need to be a critical thinker, and you need to be able to adapt. You need to be a problem solver. Those of you that are here today obviously already have some of these traits. You're already doing these things, or you wouldn't be as successful as you've been at Widener. You need to surround yourself with good people, people you can trust, people that have a similar goal. And anytime you have an opportunity to talk to successful people or to listen to successful people, you ought to learn from them. You ought to learn from them because they've been there, they've done it, and if they're successful, they must be doing something right. And the last element, if you will, is you need to learn to be able to communicate. Whether it's written or verbal, it's important that you can communicate. You can be the best accounting major, or you can be the best marketing person, but if you can't communicate your position to your coworkers, to your boss, to the people that work for you, it all comes apart. So, they're just 7 or 8 comments that I share with you, and I think they would bode well for your future endeavors. Let me tell you a story about leadership that is specific to this campus. It's about a young man who was elected captain of the 1962 football team here at that time PMC. He did not play a single down his senior year. He and I were high school teammates. He was instrumental in me coming to PMC Widener, and we were roommates during summer football camp. During that camp, he was diagnosed with a form of leukemia. And this all happened in September of 1962. So in spite of the diagnosis, as the captain of the team, he felt that his responsibility was to be present at all the practices, to go to all of the away games, all the time that he was fighting this terrible disease. His obligation to the team as elected captain was something that he took very seriously. All the things that I just said about the football program were true in the track program, because he was also the elected captain of the track team and had been an outstanding performer the year before. Even though he had sat out a year, and even though everyone knew he was sick, he was hired as a teacher and a coach at a Delaware County high school. He went ahead and married his high school sweetheart, who was a homecoming queen here at PMC Widener, our senior year. He passed away in August of '63. And through it all, he never lost his will to fight. As a tribute, his family and his friends and his teammates put together a committee to memorialize him by placing chimes in the dome at Old Main. So as you're walking around campus and you hear the chimes playing, they're playing in honor of a young man named Albie Filaretto. Next year will be the 50th anniversary of the chimes in Old Main. Filaretto is a person that set an example for courage and leadership and just all-around good person that will endure for many, many years. As you go forward with your life, I'm sure you'll develop your own role models. For me, after 50 years, Filaretto exhibited courage, character, leadership, and integrity right here on this campus 50 years ago. Many of you are going to be the young leaders of the future. You've gone through Widener's Honor Program, and people people out there in the audience before you, there were others that sat there, and some of them have stepped into their careers and are doing outstanding things. David Clifton is a graduate of '07 with a BS in mathematics, and he's a software development engineer at Oracle. Jeff Bloomquist is a graduate in 2006 with a BS in physics and mechanical engineering. He's a manufacturing engineer at Boeing and has already written his first book. Nicole Perkins, graduate in 2006, is a hospitality management major. She served for 8 months in Iraq as a women's initiative coordinator to mitigate the number of female suicide bombers. She was deployed to Afghanistan last year, and also in 2011 won the University John L. Gagan Alumni Citizenship Award. Jacqueline Shea is a chemical engineer major and a ROTC cadet, commissioned as a second lieutenant, went to law school, passed the Michigan bar, now serves her military commitment at Fort Hood. Jackie is the former president of the Honors Program and was a varsity athlete. Finally, Amy Gato, class of 2003, an international business and French major, was Widener's first president for a day. Trust me, I could have gotten 50 more from the alumni group, and from the advancement group to read to you. That's just a sampling. So those people have done what you're doing now. You're following in the footsteps of some very, very talented young men and women. You have your own God-given talents. I would say to you that you have a real obligation to use them. You have an obligation to your parents, the people that have helped you get through Widener. You have an obligation to your faculty. You have an obligation, most importantly, to yourself. So we expect you to see you all back here. We expect you to see you active at Widener in the years to come. And I can say without hesitation that if you remember the quote from Nike, just go do it. Thank you.